Alright, hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast, showing the human stories behind indie game development. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host Anthony L. Wolf, and this is Indie Diary number 75 with Jaggy Snake Games. And I believe Ian got in touch to be featured on the show, and I kindly said yes because, you know, the concept for this game is very unique, and you will find out as we talk about it during the episode. But before we get into it, I want to shout out to my Patreons who are Fishbump Dev and Peleg. Thank you so much, guys. You're amazing, and I love having your support every single month. You've been longtime supporters of the show ever since I opened the Patreon, and I really, really appreciate that. So listeners, if you too want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/theindiediarist and find out about my amazing tiers, which start all from as little as £1.25 per month and give you access to episodes in advance and a lot more, also exclusive content and whatnot. You can also go on theindiediarist.com where you can find links to my socials and other ways to support me. But now, without further ado, let's get into Indie Diary number 75. All right, hello everybody, and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. This is your loyal Indie Diarist and host Anthony L. Wolf. With me today is Ian Lynch. I suppose I'm saying your name correctly, Ian. I hope so. He got in touch very kindly to be featured on the show, and of course, as you know, I love to feature any game developer that comes my way and has an interesting story to tell. And in fact, if you want to also be featured, feel free to email anthony@theindiediarist.com. But I'm not going to say too much about you, Ian. I'll just hand it over to you. Say a few things about yourself, what you do, where you're based, and what you're working on right now.
Sure, thanks for having me. So I am Ian Lynch. I am a writer and narrative designer. Been in the industry since 2018, if that's correct, if I'm doing the math correctly. Okay. And more recently, I am the founder and creative director at Jaggy Snake Games, which is my own little tiny indie studio where we're working on our first game at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And I know you're based in Dublin, so probably you're feeling the heat wave as much as I am. Might not have been wise to schedule an episode during a heat wave, but what did we know about a month ago? So
yeah. I'm Irish, I'm struggling, but we'll get through it.
Yeah, we'll get through it. I'm here in London and it's absolutely boiling. I'm also in a flat that retains heat very well, so it's not the prettiest outlook for me, but we'll get there. It's fine. We will manage. So, as you know, as I mentioned, we have a little icebreaker segment here. I like to see these indie diaries as like diaries. These episodes are like kind of a memoir for you. So we're going to start with a prologue, just to stay in the theme and in the topic. And I'm going to ask you as many questions as I possibly can within 60 seconds. Let's see how many we get to. And just feel free to reply as concisely as you can, and then we'll dive into some of the details later. So are you ready for this little speed dating section, which is not exactly speed dating, but yeah.
Deep breath. I'm centered. Let's do it.
Perfect. Let's do it. Okay, so I'm going to also add a little bit of a background music for you just to make things a little bit more fun. It will feel like a quiz show. So, what's the first game you ever fell in love with?
I think the first game that really changed my life was Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Well, that's a good one. Okay, what's the most underrated game everyone needs to play? This might get you thinking a little.
Immortality by Sam Barlow and his team.
Good one. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure game? Something you love but know isn't perfect.
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough one. I don't have a real guilty pleasure.
It's all right. We can skip this. Pitch your game in one sentence.
It is a satirical love letter to classic 16-bit adventure games.
Beautiful. Okay, and if you could only play one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, I guess action RPGs, I guess.
Okay, that makes sense. And if you could be a game character for a day, who would you be?
Commander Shepard, of course.
Commander Shepard, oh yeah, well, of course. And lastly, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Depends on the restaurant.
Okay, I'll take that, I suppose.
I know.
I'm
It's a
Italian,
non-answer.
I'm Italian, so I'm obligated to answer that. But yeah, I've heard an interesting argument recently that, you know, the Domino style of pineapple on pizza is actually a pizza pie. It's not exactly the Italian style of making pizza. So that's acceptable there, but if you try to do like an Italian style pizza and dump some pineapple on it, probably not a good idea. And I think I do resonate with that. So yeah.
I mean, it depends on the restaurant, and ideally it depends on how many beers you've had as well.
Yeah, no, okay. I see where you're going for there. Okay, great. Well, to be fair, we finished at 1 minute sharp, and we went through all of the questions that I had to ask you. So congratulations, we did it. It went very smoothly.
I had one skip that I'm not happy about. I'm gonna, like, my guilty pleasure, that's gonna be stuck in my head now for the rest of the interview.
Well, I mean, guilty pleasure game is something that maybe you're a little bit ashamed of playing. In my case, it's Call of Duty, I suppose, because I love a lot of indie games, very much storytelling, heartfelt and such. And then sometimes I just like to brain rot on Call of Duty every now and then with friends. But that is the kind of thing that I had in mind.
Call of Duty, there's something cathartic about it, you know, just mowing down bad guys.
Or getting mowed by 15-year-olds.
Yeah.
So that's a story for another day. But now we can slow down. We can relax. We can take a slower pace. And as I mentioned, these are kind of like memoirs. So what I want to do is start from the origins. And our chapter 1 is going to be exactly about those. So of course, I kind of know what kind of games you love to play because of the press kit and such, but I want to ask you, what's your earliest or fondest memory that involves video games?
So, Christmas, I think 1994.
Oh, a year before I was born.
My older brother. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I feel old now. I was only 3 at the time, in fairness. I wasn't like 20 or anything.
Oh, yeah.
But Christmas 1994... my older brother got a Super Nintendo for Christmas, and from Santa Claus, you know, he's very generous.
Obviously, okay.
And we got Super Mario World, as well as Super Mario All-Stars, which was the collection of all the first 3 or 4 Mario games, all on one cartridge. And I remember just sitting down, and I wasn't, like, good enough to play video games at 3 years old, but I remember just watching my brother play Super Mario World and just being absolutely blown away. And of course that was the start of my lifelong commitment to being a Luigi of the world, a player 2 of the world as the younger brother. Okay. So yeah, I think that's like my earliest, like, really clear memory of video games.
Right, yeah. It's a really good memory, really heartfelt. A lot of people actually have similar stories, like someone else introduced them to gaming. It's always someone else. Anyway, it's not like you can find this passion on your own, except maybe you do it maybe at a later time in your life. But I have a similar story. I think I don't really have a clear first memory, but my first memories are definitely playing games with my, watching my uncle play games on his PC and on his PlayStation, the Sony PlayStation 1. Then I got a PlayStation myself, then I got a PlayStation 2, so over time, I just got into games myself. Then around the age of 8, I started playing Vice City, so maybe that was a little early. But here we are now. You do mention A Link to the Past and Chrono Trigger on your press kit or the page for your game. So do you think those early games that you used to play have having an influence on what you're doing now?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like in my life I've played so many games that now the thing that interests me and excites me most is like deconstructions of genres. Ooh. You know, like a Stanley Parable or an Undertale even. And I felt like those early 90s like RPGs and adventure games were just like the perfect subject for like a deconstruction, for a bit of satire, and that's kind of why I took the direction I took, because there's been parodies of like those games, but nothing that's really broken down the tropes and the cliches in what is hopefully a funny way, the way we're doing it. So yeah, those, and it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of passion. I'm not
Oh, totally, yeah. I can
being
tell.
malicious in making fun of them. So yeah, I think those play such a big direction in what I wanted to do with the studio and with our first game.
And I'll be honest, I think that that does come through. And also, I really like that questing is basically, well, you do it yourself. It's like Pong meets a bullet hell. And
Yeah.
I think that's a very unique concept. Like, of course, Pong balls and projectiles and bullet hell and such. Also, I'm a big fan of bullet hell. I suppose of Pong as well. Who doesn't love Pong?
Of course.
But yeah, bullet hell is a genre that I love, and I always love when someone tries to insert some bullet hell into like an unexpected genre or unexpected way, like near Automata, the way that they do
Yeah.
some boss battles there. I think that is absolutely insane. So yeah, that is really interesting. But now we're getting closer to the present. But of course, there's that watershed moment. There's that passage between playing the games and then wanting to make them. So when did you realize that? When did you have that moment, maybe moment of realization, maybe a haha moment that made you say, "Oh, I actually want to do these"?
I mean, it's funny because I mentioned Knights of the Old Republic as like the game that really just affected me so strongly, and I played that when I was about 14 years old. Simultaneously, when I was 14 years old, I had already decided I wanted to be like a writer, like a creative writer, a storyteller. But it didn't occur to me at 14 years old that those two passions would like work together. The idea of a game writer back in 2004 didn't seem like a real thing, and like the job title of narrative designer didn't even exist then, really.
It barely exists today. So.
Right, yeah, I can confirm that as a narrative designer who knows very few other narrative designers.
Yeah.
But as I got older and I continued to play video games, at the same time I was kind of learning how to be a screenwriter. And like the Irish film industry and the Irish TV industry are very small, and like I didn't know anybody in the industry, so I found it difficult to get my foot in. But around 2017, the summer of 2017 actually, I played Breath of the Wild, Undertale, and Persona 5 back to back to back.
Oh wow, okay.
My friends didn't see me for like 2 months.
Yeah,
and I was like, so I was just like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. I love film and I love TV,
Same,
but I want to write for games. And it was the first time that the idea really, really occurred to me. So yeah, at the start of 2018, I started my career as a writer and narrative designer in the games industry. But I'd say that summer of 2017 when I played those three games. Oh, and as well like Firewatch as well. I played around that time as well,
yes,
which I adore. So yeah, that I'd say that summer was a huge turning point in like I feel like putting me on the right path to where I am now.
I get you, and I had a similar experience, except I didn't really pursue narrative design as a career yet. I want to say, but I remember when I stumbled upon To the Moon, and when I played To the Moon, the indie game that you might know, I was like, wow, you can really tell some beautiful immersive stories through games. This is what I would like to do one day.
Yeah.
Even as a hobby or something. So I had a similar experience. Like there's always that moment when you're like, I want to blend these two things that I love, games writing or games and art or games and music, and people just then go to town with it, which is amazing. And would you say in all this time, you mentioned that you've been working in the games industry since 2018. What would you say is a big development challenge that you've overcome, and how has it changed your way of making games moving forward?
I mean, for me, especially in the context of like making my own thing and starting my own studio, it's been a real lesson in being patient. Because, I mean, for a lot of my career, I've worked in very fast-paced studios. Because I've worked on a lot of live games.
You mentioned working on CDPR as well, at CDPR, CD Projekt RED.
Yeah, I actually, because I joined CDPR like maybe halfway through the development of the Phantom Liberty. So by the time I joined, it was like just non-stop work, getting stuff done, implementing quest design, etc. It was so fast-paced. Meanwhile, working on my own thing, I've been working on questing on and off since 2019.
Oh, okay. So very early
because of yeah, exactly. And because of not only, the lack of resources you have as a solo dev, but also the lack of experience I had in 2019. It's taken me 5-6 years for the game to get to a place where I'm like, I'm okay with showing this to the world now. So, but like during those 5-6 years, there was a lot of times where you're like, okay, maybe I should just scrap it, give up, start over on something else. And some people might say I probably should have done that. But I believed in the game.
But,
yeah. But I believed in the game enough to stick with it, and I believed in what I was trying to do with the game to stick with it. So here I am, 6 years later, talking about it, and I'm glad I did stick with it. But like,
yeah, and you've also progressed. You're making progress. So yeah, you are committed to finishing it, and that is important. You're already above a lot of people who start something and then they don't finish it, and there's many of them out there.
Yeah. So learning to be patient is as a relatively impatient person, it was a big challenge.
Yeah, I totally get you. And yeah, well, I mean, you started working on questing pretty early on. You mentioned you've been in since 2018, and the year after you started working on questing. So, we already talked about this, but Pong meets Bullet Hell, I think it's a pretty unique concept, honestly. But where did the idea come from? Like, what prompted you to start working on questing, and was it already formed back then as an idea, or did it just happen?
Kind of. I mean, the Zelda games are like probably the biggest influence on questing, and there's a couple of boss battles in A Link to the Past, and I think Ocarina of Time as well, when you're facing Ganondorf. And the boss battle, it's not the entire boss battle, but it's a portion of it where Ganon will fire an attack at you, and Link just knocks it back with his sword. And it only goes for 30 seconds at a time, maybe. And I've always loved that part of those boss battles. And they're also quite reminiscent of Pong, because it's kind of a tennis match, but like a more dangerous tennis match. And I was like, I want to take this and just do more with it. Because I didn't think it was enough to carry an entire game in terms of that being the entire battle system. So I was like, what can I add to this? And I was like, okay, so maybe the enemies fire things at you, but you can't hit all of them. Some of them you have to dodge. Some of them will go on strange patterns, so you don't know which angle they're coming from.
Okay.
Some of them you can hit, but they don't go back. They just kind of explode in your face or something like that. So it was a lot of brainstorming of how can we take the simple concept of Pong, but dangerous, and add these elements to it to make it more fast-paced, raise the stakes, keep it varied enough so that it can, carry an entire game from start to finish as the battle system.
That's really interesting, and I've listened to a podcast recently that a fellow content creator in the space that said that basically every developer, every game designer builds on the game designers that have come before. So you take the best of previous games and make your own, and discard the worst. Of course, making perfect ideas is pretty much impossible, or at least executing ideas perfectly is pretty much impossible. But that's pretty much what happened to you here, I think. It's just you saw something that you thought was super fun, you took that, you extracted it, and you made it your own. And I think that's really fascinating, and it's what I love about game design as well, personally. So, yeah. So, well, in all this time, I suppose you've had people trying your game here and there, maybe some play tests and such. Perfect. So what would you say has been one of the most memorable reactions someone has had to it?
So I remember, because I was at Gamescom Canada in Edmonton last month, which is the first time I was ever at like a conference or an event where I was showing off my game publicly, which is terrifying. And I remember, and because like it's strangers playing your game. It's not team members, it's not friends. It's someone who doesn't know you, you don't know them, they don't know what they're getting into, and they're going in as like a blank slate,
with their own preconceptions and expectations and such. So yeah,
exactly. And I remember when the first time somebody laughed at the jokes in the game.
Ah, that's nice.
It's because everyone, I mean, everyone obviously has their own sense of humor, but when it comes to like writing comedy, you become terrified that like nobody's gonna get this, nobody's gonna understand the references or the punchlines. People are gonna think it's too silly or too childish or whatever. And when the first person was like, "This is funny, I get it," I was like, "Okay,
Nice.
I can die happy. One person gets it. That's all I wanted."
Well, someone who doesn't think of himself as being really great at writing comedy, I imagine that is a really good, a good feeling.
There's this old cliche among writers, which is very dark, but is also a joke. That's just dying is easy, comedy is hard. And yeah, I kind of get it, you know.
Yeah, no, totally get it. Well, I mean, I suppose this question kind of answers itself already because, well, we talked about the unique concept that is behind questing. But what would you say is one mechanic that you're particularly proud of? Something, let's go deeper than the Pong meets bullet hell. Something that you've implemented and you think is really cool.
So, I mean, the demo that's out at the moment, it only kind of plants the seeds of this mechanic. But I'm always a big fan of when there's mechanics that are hiding kind of beneath the surface that players don't know is there initially until later in the game when the mechanic reveals itself and the player's mind is blown, or at least I hope it'll be blown with questing. And so we have this kind of, I don't want to say it's hidden or secret, but we have this, I guess, subtle morality system that kind of is quite subtle at first, and then it slowly begins to emerge as the players make decisions about how to play the game. And it's not like a Mass Effect or a Telltale game where the player chooses left or right or blue or red, and that's the branch they go on. It's the morality system we use is like all of these, a series of micro decisions that the game keeps track of that kind of slowly shifts how the game works as it progresses. And if I give away too much more, people will know what's doing it, and they'll start metagaming, so I'll leave it there.
Okay, great. Interesting. Okay, well, that's a nice, and it's probably a complex system to work on, because I haven't worked on a morality system in one of my games yet, but I'm sure it's not the easiest thing. There's probably a lot of branches involved. Yeah, it's a big pain. Okay, good to know. But yeah, so, well, we're actually near the end of the interview, but now comes the part that I like to call reflections, because I'm about to ask you a question that is the core, the heart of the Indie Diarist, and I always love asking this question to everybody. I think we tiptoed around the answer here and there. I can expect what yours is going to be, but I want to ask you, Ian, specifically, why are you a game developer? What drives you forward?
I mean, and this is going to sound probably very pretentious, but I kind of identify myself as a storyteller more than anything else.
I don't think it's pretentious at all, but yeah, go on.
Thank you, I appreciate it. I needed to hear that. And I think what we have with video games is like the most exciting, interesting storytelling medium in the world at the moment. And I think as an industry, we've barely scratched the surface. There's like so much potential with the stories we can tell here. So that's really what I'm driven by and what I'm motivated by. The way Knights of the Old Republic just completely blew my mind in 2004, I hope to just, one of my games does that for someone at some point in the future. Even if it's just one person where it's like, really, they connect with it and they really feel something from it. And even if it makes them want to write stories themselves or become a narrative designer, that would, be a dream come true for me. So it's really wanting to push boundaries, barriers, experiment with this insane storytelling medium that we have at our disposal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think it makes sense. And inspiring others is a big one. Leaving something for others to enjoy and all of that. I think it's a really solid answer there, and it's a really solid dream. So yeah. You did mention the value of patience and all of that. What would you say has been the toughest part of your journey so far? And how did you push through it?
I mean, the thing is, like, I've always been relatively confident as a writer. I mean, like, I was a bad writer for a few years before I got decent, and then I got pretty good.
Doesn't that happen to everybody?
Yeah. If you want to be good at something, you have to be bad at something first. Yeah. But
Very
I was
bad.
so much... Yeah. But I was so much less confident in terms of, like, my technical design skills. And there was so many times where I'm like, this is not going to work. People are going to hate this. And you have to stop yourself from deleting hundreds of lines of code.
Yeah.
In your moments of weakness and doubt.
Yeah.
And I mean, now that I've kind of come through the tunnel, I'm at the other side where I stuck with it. And like, there has been criticism of the game, but it's not criticism that hurts, you know? The criticism I'm generally getting is that it's probably the game's more difficult than they were expecting, I guess.
Okay.
Which there's so much worse criticism you can get than that.
Oh yeah,
so
no,
I
definitely.
will take...
I mean, you can always balance, especially in an RPG. You can balance things relatively easily. So yeah.
Yeah, so I will take "it's too difficult" as criticism any day of the week compared to the story's crap. And
I knew
the art
you were
style
going
is
to go
bad,
for that.
I don't like it. It doesn't make sense, etc.
I knew you were going to mention the story because it would hurt me too. It's what we do. It's what we like to do. So it's where we feel more vulnerable, I suppose. That said,
exactly.
Of course, you can always accept constructive criticism, but there's yeah.
I mean, if you're a writer who can't take constructive criticism, or I guess in a certain sense, if you're a writer who can't take rejection, you won't make it very long as a writer.
Yeah. Okay, well then, Ian, I think it's almost time to go, but I have one final question for you. And as I mentioned a few times, these are like memoirs. These are like indie diaries. If this were your personal diary, if this episode were your final diary entry, what's one message you would leave for fellow developers or players? I'll leave the choice to you.
Oh my god, you really ended with like the biggest question possible.
Yeah.
There's genuinely, I could spend hours leaving all kinds of little messages and ideas and insights for whoever might find this symbolic diary. But I don't think we have 2 hours, so I'll try to think of something here. Honestly, doing this is like, you have to realize that it's completely subjective what we do. And that is such a double-edged sword in terms of, if you're making a game, especially a story-driven game, criticism will feel super personal. But at the same time, the fact that it's subjective means that someone somewhere out there will get it and they will connect with it.
Love it.
And as long as you continue to look for that person and write for that person who may one day get it, then all of the rejection and all of the criticism and all the stumbling blocks won't seem quite as bad. As bad as they seem in the moment, there's gold on the other side of the rainbow, so to speak. I can't believe I'm an Irish person. And I picked the most stereotypical metaphor to end on.
The gold at the end of the rainbow. But I needed to hear that personally for a number of reasons that maybe I will tell you separately. But thank you, Ian. It's been lovely having you here on the show, and I think it was a lovely episode. I always love connecting with fellow writers, because it's just you are my people. So yeah, that is always fun. Now it's time for some parting words. So where can other people find you, and if they do, what is the best way to support you?
So, I think our most consistent social media account is Blue Sky, which is kind of my little sandbox of weirdness in terms of creating social media content, but we're also on Instagram, which I don't really know how to use, and TikTok, which I know how to use even less. Yeah. If you want to check us out there. And in terms of supporting the game, the demo is out now, regardless of whether you end up liking it or not, anyone who's willing to give it a chance, it means the world to me, because this is really, I've said it already, this has been something I've been working on for 5-6 years. It's the passion project. So anyone who's willing to give it a go, it means the world. If you like it, leave a review, and wishlist the full game as well, because that's there on Steam.
Amazing.
Soon.
And obviously, I will put all of these links in the description of the episode so people can find you and give you a follow and support you in any way they can. But thank you again, Ian, for coming to the show. It was a lovely episode with you. I will definitely check out Questing when it comes out, and also the demo, of course. I might play it for the YouTube channel. Who knows? We'll see when the time comes. But wishing you all the best with Questing, everything else that comes after it, and for the rest of your game design career.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.